Dev Hynes is an English musician, singer, songwriter, composer, producer, and director who is currently based in New York. He's worked in various genres. He was in the band Pest Icicles, I'm saying that very carefully, for a time. He released music under the names Lightspeed Champion, Blood Orange, and Devonte Hines. He's collaborated with lots of people. He's also worked in classical music and scores. Under the name Blood Orange, he has released 5 albums so far. Hi, my name's Dan, and this is a review of the album Freetown Sound by Blood Orange, which was released in 2016. It was his 3rd album, and it's my first time listening to it. So it's not that long since I reviewed Negro Swan, which is his next album after this one. I did like this one better than that, as we'll see. So I've given away the ending, haven't I? So I would describe this as being alternative R&B, and I think I'm not alone in that. I think it's basically that there seems to be a thing happening in R&B. I mean, happening. This is 10 years ago, but to me, it all feels very recent. And there seems to be certainly albums that have made it onto this list that are kind of at base R&B, but there's actually some experimental stuff going on in them. And this is one of those. It's got a rich vein of alternativeness, I would say, here. There's some unusual sounds used, there's some unusual arrangement and some unusual production. It does feel like it is solidly based in the concept of R&B. Some of that is just, well, obviously it's the rhythms used and the style of instruments used and the style of the vocals in here as well. Partly this thing of alternative R&B. In fact, R&B in general, I would say, in the last 10 years, has a big focus on production techniques and some unusual or maybe new things that seem to have come along. Definitely in R&B, in other types of music as well, but I think R&B is where it has been most prevalent, or maybe where I've experienced it most prevalently. Back to more specifics of this track, there's mostly quite a lot of small tracks. There's a mixture of electronic stuff and real instruments. There's a very pick and mix approach to plunging not just what instruments and sounds are used, but other styles and ideas. It's quite a melting pot, really. A lot of this is Devonte Hines being a multi-instrumentalist, but there's also quite a few other people involved in playing. And I think the strength of this album is in the richness of this approach. That is the thing that I found the most appealing. There's some nice playing, some interesting arrangement. Sometimes is pushing at what you might think are the normal rules of how you arrange something and doing things differently with tensions here between, quite busy rhythm, but then very paddy stuff going on in the background sometimes. And I would say it ranges from quite effective to a bit awkward, but definitely trying some different things here. Musically, it's fairly soul R&B at heart, I would say. Probably my favourite track is EVP, which is kind of funk. And that's just, I like funky grooves. It does make some use of the kind of wandering tuning effect, which I think of as being like an old-fashioned cassette that's got a bit stretched, and you get a kind of wow on the tuning, which I don't particularly like. I still don't like it on this album, but less jarring than it's been on some of the albums that I've encountered it. Maybe I'm just kind of getting fed up of complaining about it. I don't know. As I was making the notes, so what happens is I do a listen, and then I do a read up on the album and on the act, and then do a second lesson, and then I write my notes. But as I write my notes, I'm having bits from the different tracks. I'm trying to work out which tracks I'm going to have snatches from at the start and the finish. So I've often got it playing as well again, or bits of it playing whilst I'm writing the notes. And as I was writing the notes, I was noticing this detuned thing, or this tune changing thing more. Um, where am I up to in my notes? I was explaining that. Singing, so sounds a bit dreamlike singing at times, which is kind of a bit distant and echoing, reverby, but not all the time. Sometimes he sounds a bit like Smokey Robinson. I would say there's a bit of a little bit of that smoke in his voice. Sometimes he sounded a bit Prince, and sometimes a bit Michael Jackson, even. Mostly it feels like it's maybe not full on dream, but somewhat disconnected, and as if he's not quite singing to you, but to somebody else who's off in a different direction. We've got a couple of guest singers here, Nelly Furtado and Debbie Harry. I can't remember if there are any others. And there's some nice stuff from them as well. The songs, well, the song content, it seems quite shallow pop stuff on the surface. When you dig a bit deeper, there's more in here than that. And there are themes of alienation and otherness and contradictions in society, tensions between community and insecurity, and that kind of stuff. Mostly, though, that's quite understated. And I think that actually the musicality of the album contributes to an overall general feeling of unease that's in here, which I'm going to choose to attribute as being deliberate, because I think it could well be. So overall, I quite enjoyed it. Not hugely, more than I did, as I said, his previous album, well, which is actually his next album, but the previous review that I've done. Mostly, I think I enjoyed the unusualness of it. Some of it for the music, it's not really my style of music generally. So that's what I think of this album. And so this is me obviously coming to the end of the review. As always, I'd like to know what you think of the album. Have you got anything to say about Blood Orange, Devontae Hines? Whatever you think about my review, whether you know, you might disagree with me, you might agree with me. Any memories you've got of this album? It's not. I'll say it's not that old, but it's 10 years old. You might have memories, you might have nostalgia. Just please talk to me. But that's it from me for now.
In the car, start 19 makeup. Chances are you never saw what made you who you are. So take a bow, 'cause it's done. You run for dreams are gone, and stars remain of running away and hiding for they come.